Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. I have to do a commission painting, a very kind of a special little commission painting here, and I thought it'd be kind of fun for you to see how, again, I've done it a couple times on the channel here, but see how I approach one of those, okay? So let's get right into it. This is a little 8x10. They wanted a small 8x10, and it's with this rose. They went through my website and they picked out this rose, and I painted this rose a long time. Of course, I painted it a long time ago. Boy, almost 9 years ago. I did a warm, cool study on a Queen Elizabeth rose. I called it the Elizabeth rose, and it had special meaning for them. And I told them that we do an 8x10, we'll have to do it a little more simplistic. So they like the little flowers into the back and all that kind of stuff. So I'm gonna do that, but I'm gonna put a little more depth into the rose this time because I can do things more than I did 8 years ago with my roses, and I can't put quite as many petals into a smaller rose like this. It'll just be a little bit confined. Let's put it that way. But I'm going to put in some lost and found edges, and of course they want anything that I can create along this line will be good for them. But I do an 8x10. It's easy for them to find a frame, and so let's go. So I have my base coat here. This is just yellow oxide, black and white. And here for my painting palette, this is my standard thing. I'm going to do it Alla Prima today, so we can put it in the Alla Prima playlist. So I have out here first, this is the Daravan's open medium, which gives me a longer working time. I won't really need it today, but it does give enough working time for me just in case. I also have a little container out here of the this is the extender medium, which works like the it's not exactly the same as the open medium. The open medium has binder and glue, but this will slow down the drying time, and it keeps the paint a little bit thinner. Now I like to paint lost edges. I like thin, thick, and there's some really in-depth lessons in the Alla Prima playlist on the channel for you to learn the difference between extender and open medium, so you can watch some of those to see how you do it. But I usually use both out at the same time. This is my standard palette here. This is a Hansa yellow, the Darulite yellow here, yellow oxide, burnt sienna, naphtha red light, pine green, phthalo blue. This is my red violet, quinacridone violet, and white. Okay, I'm going to use my fusion brushes. One of my favorite, number 8. I believe it's a number 8. The paint caked up on it a long time ago, so I can't see it. But and this is a 6. So yeah, this is about an 8. Yeah, this is about an 8 or so, 6 and an 8 for doing some of the small stuff. 3/4 inch fusion here for doing the larger stuff into the background. And I'm going to start there. I'm going to take some extender down here. And what I do when I'm going to take inspiration and stuff, or whenever I do anything, and I want to put all this gray in here, I'm going to key off of two of my main colors, which is my reds and my greens here, which makes beautiful grays. So I'll key off of those two first. And so we'll make a red and a green here. Sometimes I'll cool it with a little bit of violet here, and then that's going to help me make a beautiful gray that I can put out over my board here, and I'll add some extender to this because I'm going to do a wet on wet here, and so I'm going to push some of this color right into this other background color, which I like, and we'll do it a little more contemporary. They love my contemporary flowers that I do today, so I will do that for them, and we'll push some of this color around. I'll add some other colors and stuff to it. Right now I'll keep it kind of thin, kind of modeled here like this coming through. Leave some areas just a little bit different. I like to then go in and set the rose. Now, I always believe, and it is true, that it is far easier to cool a warm than it is to warm a cool. And so I'm going to start out kind of warm, a warmish kind of red here, and I'll put in the shape of the rose. Now, I'm not going to go into a copy mode, so I'm going to do this one as I do today. This other one was 9 years ago. So, and, I do things a little bit differently, but probably don't want to go quite that big, but I want to get these lost edges in here, and I will do a lot of negative painting here also as we get into it. So light on this one comes in this way, so the cool side of the rose would be down here. So I'll take some of my quinacridone. Now, I don't want the quinacridone, and I'm still using extender, so I keep this initial color phase thin. The quinacridone is very, very bright, so I don't want it quite so bright, so I'm going to add a little bit of green to it here. which will tone it down, gray it down. Just takes just a little. It can also add just a touch of the background. So I don't want it quite so bright. So now what I do is I create a warm and a cool side of the rose here to it, and you can see that. And that's what this main study was on this other rose. That really kind of appealed to the customer here, is the warm and cool. So we'll make sure that we deposit that. So I have that. Now I can take these and I can also push in. We'll push in a little lost rose back there. They liked the lost roses and stuff that I put in. So we'll add some of these back here for lost roses. But it's got to be about one big main rose. These are all things that you find out from the customer and stuff as you're working through. You know, you learn after a certain amount of times, what is it you like about it, what is it you don't like about it, you know, and and you got to get yourself some artistic freedom to it and stuff. And this person just loves all that I do, so I'm not really concerned about that too much. But now this rose turns towards us, and I'm going to put in some contrast, some nice cooler contrast into the center. I'm going to take, and this is where I'm going to start adding my open medium. I'm going to want a bit more, maybe just a touch of red in here, but slightly on the cooler side, right into the center. This will be the focal point of the rose. So I'm going to get this quite dark, and the rose moves around in a circle, right? So I'm going to set the mark, the center of the rose, and then I'm just going to start tapping around here into a circle here, working some of this out here. So I start to give some of the movement that I want this rose to have. The next thing that I always tell you guys, what's the most important thing of this thing? The bowl, right? We got to get that bowl in. So I've got to define where that bowl is. And I'll make it just a bit warmer than what I do into that center. Maybe on this side I'll add more quinacridone. Make sure I add a little bit of that open medium that stays wet here. And push that in and around. I'll try not to paint too much with my finger, but today's for you. But I just got to every once in a while. I just have to do that. I just love it. Now I'll take this off. Let's soften it off. And let's just put in a little idea of the softer center. See, when you're out here in these outside ones, it really only takes the color, the center color, and the bowl to start making it look like a rose, you see? It's all it takes. Just a little bit of that. Okay, now I'm going to start drawing some of the petals, and then we're going to paint with a lot of halftones and stuff out here. So I'm going to start lightening up here just a bit. I want to make some nice light, warm, so maybe some naphtha red, light there, a little bit of yellow oxide. I love the yellow oxide for really casting a nice warm color here. But we want it slightly more to the red. There we go. Add a little bit of your open medium, a little bit of light. Let's come over here. And one of the things I like to establish first is my outside reaching petals here. How far are these going to go out here? And I'll just tap along the edge, and I'm going to pull in. And right along that edge, now I don't want that light to come in quite that far. So what I'll do, since I'm painting Alla Prima here, is I'm just going to take some of this dark and just walk it out towards that light. And leave a little bit of that light coming in, and I can work back and forth. I can pull back in a bit. I like streaks. I like color variations. I can come back with the petal edging technique that you've seen me do and other things. I can do more things to it, later on. But I'm going to edge basically this brush, and this is kind of a big brush to do it, but I'm just setting the petals first, and then I'll go to a smaller brush and manipulate some smaller colors. But let's just pull in a petal here, out like that, okay? And one of the things that I like to do with my roses when I paint them like this is I like to set the outside around here, so I'll come out this way. I'm going to cool down. Let's go to our quinacridone over here. Let's take a little white, a little bit of our medium. Let's get a slightly lighter but cooler color over here. You can see where that cool color is. Here, a little bit of warmth here, just a bit up there in the front. We'll do more here later in just a few minutes. And we'll draw some more, but this just kind of sets the area of my rose here. And I'll draw a little bit. That's a little warm for that side, so let's get up here. I like the lightness of it, just not the warmth of it. So let's go cool it back down just a bit here. So I'll put that out. So what I'm basically doing here is I'm setting the outside parameters here of my rose, what's going to be there on the outside of the rose. And then I'll come in and we can use a little warm, a little light, and I can cut across here and I can set the inside of the rose here with the inside petals. Now normally I do this with a slightly smaller brush, but I'm a big advocate of, Sargent, who always says paint with as large a brush as possible. So if I feel I can comfortably get in there with the bigger brush, I'll do it. And let's go in, and I'll be using a lot of this, the petal edging technique. That's what I used in these days back here. And I use that edge and I draw that rose around. I want to keep my eye on where that bowl is right in here. And as I build some of these colors around here, I want to constantly keep my eye on where that bowl is here. So I'll come back here and we'll push in this other petal right out here like this. We'll take a little bit of that bowl color and just pull right out to it to set where that petal is going to go. And I'll come back in and draw more edges and more things. I want to every once in a while maybe restate here. Don't forget to add your open medium here. Restate, a little red violet, a little quinacridone, a little bit of this red. Here, some beautiful deep colors on this side of the rose. This is what's going to make this pinky rose look really pretty here. And I used my finger there, didn't I? Yeah, that's just my habit. I love painting with my finger. So I got that nice warm and cool in there, just like that. That works really well here. Let's set that brush down. You can just poke a little extender in it, mix it up like that, and just set it down over there on the side. It won't hurt it at all. Let's go into it, my 6 here, smaller 6, and let's work that so I can draw some additional petals here. I'll go slightly cool. I'm going to come right down through here in the cool side. So I'll go slightly cool, and let's just draw some of these cool petals in down here, pulling in towards where that bowl would be, right like that. And I can push in and out to set that petal a bit. Pick up that little edge. That's your drawing edge right there, right? That's what it makes you really quickly and efficiently draw a petal around. And I just kind of bring it around to fit that bowl. I'll pinch wipe that brush, some of the color off. Let's grab some red, maybe even a touch of this orange. And let's just set that little halftone right along the side there. And that it just incorporates that little petal. And I can come back here and clean up that little edge there. That works. Today I can paint these roses so much faster than what I originally did, back 8-9 years ago when I painted that one. And I can do so much more with my flowers today than I did with that one. But we'll just keep building here. Now, I want to put in the impression of the bottom of the rose, which is the bottom of the bowl of the rose here. Nice warm color right here. And we'll let the cool color come out onto what I call the reaching petals. Here, make sure you feed that, and let's get a little warm. I love Darulide. And, years ago I wasn't a big fan of Darulide like I am now. And this will just make a beautiful, look at that beautiful tone right in there. See? Nice warm tone of it adds just a tremendous coloring right in there in the center of this Queen Elizabeth rose. Beautiful pinky kind of rose, but gets these orange undertones and everything. It's just a beautiful rose. So I'm going to take some of that nice warmth with that. And see, I love the warmth of the orangey kind of tones, the pinks, and I watch right in here. And don't forget to always watch that I'm always feeding. I call feed your paint some of that open medium there, so it doesn't dry out on you. And let's just restate that center knob of the rose. We'll take just an edge of this. We'll come up and around and put another little bowl petal right there. Now, I can shoot in a little shadow, a little warm, a little cool. Just use your small brush and just run it right up there against that edge and bring those together again just a bit. And it puts in just a nice little transitional color. On the other rose, what I did a lot was short little taps like this, so the rose took on a lot of mottled color. See the modeling of the color. So instead of always pulling, I started to do a lot of tapping with the color and what I call short stroking the color, which creates a lot of mottled interest here. And so you can do that, and you see it just adds more movement to your roses, which is kind of pretty. Let's take an edge. So I'll come up here and pick up that edge, real heavy little edge, and let's draw another row of petals right down like that. We'll come in like it's going to join right into the bowl there, like that. Okay. Now, what I'll do is I'll just back out to a little of this cool, a little of this color. If it starts to get too sticky, add a little extender and see how that just loosens it all up. Sometimes if I have a real thick paint, I'll want to come in with a little looser paint to do something like this, because the little looser paint does not have as much power as the thicker paint I just put on. And so when you're going to put in there, the thicker paint wins. Thicker paint will always win against the thinner paint. So if I want that thicker paint, I want to be careful not to eliminate it. I'll make sure the shadows I put on are thinner. Now you'll hear that a lot, and where did I get that? Got it from landscapes. There was an old landscape philosophy that shadows go in thin, highlights go in thick. And because the shadows can really have a lot of power when they're up against a light. And I started using that even in painting a flower. So if I put on a petal with a light, then I thin the paint out and go back in and soften it out with the shadow. But the shadow paint is thinner, so it has less power. Does that make sense? Yeah, and it works that way. It works very nice that way. Let's just take a little bit of this cool, because we can, right up against the edges, put in some for contrast. And I'll just put some right in there like that. And I'm just looking for some nice, beautiful color interest here around the rose. Is what I want. I'll take this. Let's get a little warmer pink. Let me restate some warmer pink right in here, which is naphtha red, light, and light. And then this will be my cooler pinks over here, which is my quinacridones, red, violets, and lights. And you can see that, the warms and the cools here. Okay, so I can come in here and tap a little bit of the cool, a little bit thinner, move a little bit of that cool color there, and then go right into my warmer pink colors. Let's go put the front of the bowl on. We'll want some warmth, so I'm just going to slide over here to the warmth. I won't even clean my brush so that my warm cools just a little bit, and I'll go back and forth. But I find doing that keeps the colors modeled or moving through the rose, so that it doesn't look stiff. If you just have stiff petals of warm and cool, it's not as pretty. So let's go up here and let's make a big forward bowl petal pulling down this way. Nice warm color right here. We'll put just a little more red to the cool color right along the bottom there. Pull up just a bit. There, that sets that petal in, see? Now we can come back and define that petal a little bit more. Draw it in here with a little bit of light. Let's get a little more paint there, Dave, so it looks like you know what you're doing. Here, a little more paint. Thicker in the lights, thinner in the shadows. It's a good rule to remember here. Let's come in and close these off a little bit more with another little tap here. Another little petal. Maybe another little petal that comes across there like that, down in that way. I just start adding petals, and you can just use a small brush like this with that little edging technique. If it gets too light, just slide over towards your cools right like that. Drop a little bit cooler in there and get a slightly different look to it. I'm going to pull this one down just a bit here. So I'll spread that light out slightly, pull it down. That looks pretty good. Maybe, and so I use the edge. So, you know, I came up with this petal edging technique after I read one of Sargent's 10 Principles of Alla Prima, was to use your brush like a pencil. And I was just like, okay, well, I draw the petal edge. Why can't I draw? I mean, I would draw with a pencil the edge of the petal. Why can't I do it with a brush in color? And that's what I did. So now I'm coming over here to the cool side, and I'm going to drop that in. Now, that might be a bit light for the cooler side of the rose. So let's just come in and soften that down just a bit here. That works. And movement. I can just add movement in here that I can turn into all kinds of other petals here, see? So let's go in. We'll pick up this light here. Thick white. I like that because I can edge into it and really use it to draw stuff. Put a little cooler color in over here, some thick white. Let's use this just to draw in a few petals, right like that. Pull those petals in a bit. Create some of that movement, that nice petal movement interest in. And usually when I'm doing a commission like this, and this one is a memorial commission, and so I really like to get a lot of interest in beautiful things. I enjoy painting them because I think as I'm painting like this, I think about my customer and how much they're going to hopefully enjoy the painting for years and years and years to come, and that just makes me just put a little bit more into it each time, and it's what I love to do. And when I know them really well, I see their face, and they're just like I'm talking with them, and I imagine them, opening up the package when it arrives, and it's a beautiful rose or beautiful western or something like that, and I imagine that, and it just causes me to put that extra little bit into it. So there is a certain amount of satisfaction that comes from painting commissions and stuff. A lot of fun. So I'll keep this, and like I said, I can tap around to make it look like other little petals and stuff like that around, see? But I just come through and I build it, and let's put in a side petal right here, dropping that down, right in there, okay? And a little bit more light, slightly warm. We'll let it go right back to the cool again. Let's add a bit of the light back here, just a bit to break that away. But I can see now, I'm going to thin. This is getting a little sticky, so I'm going to add some extender to it here. And I'm going to come out here and I'm going to light up and warm up this side of the rose just a bit more here. So I'm going to grab a little more light. Sometimes I'd add more yellow, but I think I like this color. I just want it lighter. So I'll add that. A few little marks of movement there, like that. Makes a pretty little petal here. Anytime I need to reset my brush, I just pinch wipe it like that, and I can pick up that edge, and that just gives me a nice edge here in which to draw from, to build up a petal or something like that, and draw a little more interest into the petal here. A little bit more interest here. Don't use your finger, Dave. But we will. We'll pull down slightly like this on this side. And see, now why am I pulling down this way? My bowl is rounding around this way. I don't want to pull this way because that will pinch my rose down to a V, you see? So I want to pull this down like this so it keeps the roundness to the bowl. Does that make sense? Okay? And since we got a nice petal rose, see, you can just real quickly add another little petal right out there like that. That looks kind of neat. Okay? And yeah, it's a pretty little rose. There's lots of them, lots of different types of them out there. They're pretty. We have one that has a big folded front here, which and I think that's probably why she chose this one, because it is a pretty petal. So I'm going to pull out here, the petal's folding over here, and I'm going to change the direction and build the petal down this way, right up there into the front, so it's pulling out that way. It's a big front building petal here. And I can put more turned ones out into here, I think, and I just might drop one in there like that. Let's reset that shadow right in there on that side just a bit, so you see that touch more. I'm going to leave some of those streaks in like that. They're going in that way and stuff, and they add so much to the rose itself. Let's restate. I'm going to thin this just a bit because it's a little sticky. That nice bottom warmer bit of the rose back there at the bottom of the bowl, okay? And then we'll add some cooler colors here, right up to the bottom of that bowl there, and pull out one more time, like that. And then we'll build the bigger front petals here. Okay, so I'll put in the bigger front petals. Right up here like this, we'll drop one around, pull into there, right in towards that bowl. Get that nice petal there. Let's and I might want to make some of these a nice translucent color into these here. So I'm just going to push in a little color to see where those petals will go. And I'm going to flip over here. Let's grab, and I'm not even going to clean that red out. I'm going to go back to my 8 or 10 here and use a little pine green and a little bit of our burnt sienna, some of these colors. We'll thin it with some extender here, and let's just drop some of this green right into the pinks and stuff here. This will give the nice translucent edge that I like to paint. Transparent, translucent edges, I like to paint those. Let's put a little bit of contrast right up here into a beautiful leaf or so. We'll put one up there and see that just drops that contrast up there. Now, I'll probably make that a little softer up there because I want the contrast right down here. So I'll add a little white, which softens it against this background. And we'll push that color in there. We'll drop this one in right out here. We'll push in a little bit of color. Nice little bit of the greens there. Maybe a touch of the greens right out here between these two, and see if I draw any kind of leaf or anything here, it'll push that other rose a little bit further back. That's that idea of the rose. And I can take that green, and I'll do this a lot, you know, I'll take that green with some of this softer pink that's back here and push in, and that makes a softer little idea of a rosebud or something right back there. See, pushes it to the back, just keeps it soft there, just something right there to the back. Okay, and I like that. I think it works really well. I'm going to take some of the light, we'll leave a bit of the green in there with some of this pinky kind of color here, and we're going to push this green right into the edge of that rose to get that transparent look that is pretty popular in a lot of things that I do. So I'll just grab that, and I'll find the motion that I want this petal to have, and I'm just going to pull out like that, and I can tap more light or warm, you know, like I can tap some of that light right around here, small short strokes like this to give some more movement interest to that petal right there like that. And I want a warmer pink here to come in here to the inside this one right in here and just drop right into that bowl there. So I'm going to drop that one in there. And you know, a lot of times, like when I originally painted this one, you know, years ago, I looked up the Queen Elizabeth rose, the Elizabeth rose, and found some that I liked and started to emulate them. And of course, today I've painted so many of them, I don't always need one to look at. And what I suggest to you, if you're going out and you're looking at them, find a pretty one, stare at it for a long time, then go paint it. Don't always put it up in front of you for reference. You can have it there for reference, but you'll go into a copy mode really easy. And that copy mode will just start frustration. Copy mode starts frustration, okay? You get frustrated when you're trying to copy my roses to get the same type of feeling or something to a rose. That's a perfectly natural thing, guys. But you have to, you want to make it yours. And so you listen to the technique of the petal edging, the warm side, the cool side, making shadows thin, making the edging and the warms heavier, light, thicker colors. And you listen to some of that stuff, and you take that in as the artist, and then you let some of it become yours, okay? And that's when the rose starts to really get pretty, because it is not a copy. You're out of the copy mode. So I'm just going through, I just go through something like this, and I just start to add, let's put in a lighter front warm over here to my warm side, not my cool side. Let's put in a lighter front warm right in here. Big front light petal that controls that side of the rose here. Now we'll cool it down just a bit. We'll thin it down because the cool is going to go into a shadow. And I'll pump right up against the edge of that, and I'll just pull in like this and set that petal right in like that. Maybe a bit more warm. Maybe I took out a little bit too much, so we'll put in just a touch more warm. But this gets a nice movement there. I'm going to thin this one out just a bit. Add just a bit of warm to this side. So I'm just kind of, this is what I call in a lot of my classes, this is what I call the weaving of the petals. I'm weaving petals in and out here to make this rose. And so I, there's some that I'll go this way and that way, and I call it weaving, like basket weaving, weaving the petals in here till I get the look that I like. Let's pull this out a little more heavy right in here since we got that light there. And then we'll cool up right in there and pull out, lift off, pull a little bit, lift off, so that gets a nice motion to that petal in there. So I can add anything. I can use the petal edging, just the tiniest bit of paint here. And just, put that little spark right back up into the edge, draw that little edge wherever I want, put that little bit of spark, leave some of that edging there, and you get a pretty little flower. Now, we'll take some of this, grain it down, gray it down, so it's not quite so heavy, and we'll put a softer little lost petal, rose back there, softer little rose, idea of a rose here into the back. Maybe just a petal or two. Sometimes I'll put a accent little petal right up there, and grab a little bit of shadow, push that around. But that green's very important so that this maintains some of the color, but it's not exactly the same. Now we'll take some more of that green, add some of our medium here to it. Let's go with a yellow green here, and let's set a more powerful leaf. We'll go right up over the edge here like that, right into this one, right up to the front here. We'll go with a little bit more here, and we'll set a little pine green, a little bit of violet, red violet or quinacridone violet, makes a nice cool, whatever one you want to use. And we'll set the cooler green in, cooler side, cooler green in, cooler side. You can even create a little bit of a vein line if you want there, here like that. And sometimes I'll add just a little bit of movement to that leaf to build the leaf a little bit more, especially on this side. And I'll take some of this, maybe a little bit of that burnt sienna, and we'll drop that idea of that stem down, break it with the Alla Prima just a bit here. It's kind of pretty. Let's thin out, leave this kind of grayed out, thin it out, slightly lighter here, gray it out, and let's put a few softer leaves down over here, right over there like that. Okay, and draw a little bit of a stem out here, maybe a little movement right up there like that. Sometimes I'll thin out with extender here now and get really thin, little thin transparent leaves back out to this side. A few of them around in other parts of the rose here to carry some of those colors there. It's kind of nice. Here, let's put just a bit right up in here around that. Carry some of that green in between there, and I'll blur these together. If I'm not sure really what I want to do is with the light pink or the red, something like that, I blur that together, and it works really well. And you let the viewer see whatever they want to see, what is on top. Let's put a soft little leaf shape right out over here. So I got a variation of my leaf shape. Now, I can, since my rose right here is so light and so pink, I can get some lighter greens in there too. So let's go with the lighter yellow green here. Maybe even a tiny bit of the Hansa there. Let's go with the lighter yellow green and pull some of that out onto the light side here. Just a bit of that. That'd be perfect. Just a bit. I find that if I want it to be beautiful, I don't make it perfect. It really is true. Let's put just a bit. Get it more casual. Let's put a bit of that over here. Build that light side and shadow side of the leaf. There. We can take an edge like this with your brush and make a just over into the shadow side. Just a bit. Just make a little bit of a vein line right there. And you can always negative paint it back up with some shadow, any kind of shadow. Sometimes I'll even take this more of a burnt sienna and paint it back up to that. And refine that edge just a bit there, like that. And yeah, that works. Let's thin that out here. There, like that. And a little bit more over here. And back. A few more little shadows, a little bit more movements. Now, sometimes with these, you know, I used to do really soft, but I think I will do just a bit more. We're going to take a real light pink. Sometimes I'll use the blues that I really like here. But maybe let's just see what a little bit of this color through here looks like. This light little pink coming through the rose here, carrying through here. Carries through that background, that warmth and stuff. I like that, to manipulate that background and have a little bit of like color come through like that. And it just adds some additional movement and stuff to the background and everything. Here, soften that out just a bit. Now, in looking at it, I probably want just a little more contrast right up in here. It looks, you know, a little bit more shadowing. So I'm going to go back to my quinacridone. I'm going to try to keep it a little thinner. So I'm first mix in a little bit of the open medium, but then I'm going to thin it down with a little bit of extender and maybe gray this just a bit so it's not quite so bright. Let's come back in here and just reintroduce a few more shadows to this side, to the cooler side here. Deeper pink shadows there. That's going to increase the contrast just a bit more of the rose and keep it from looking not quite so flat here. So I'll reintroduce the shadow side first here. A few more of those beautiful colors. Let's take some more warmth, some of that nice dark-eyed bit of our extender, and go into some light here, making a half tone, medium tone here. That's kind of warm here, but it's more of a medium tone. And we'll drop a bit of that warmth right in there. And that's going to be pretty. So I'll take the two and make a tone right in between the two there. And I can re-edge. So what I'm doing is just building the petals up here a little more. I can re-edge in a little light and just soften that edge there. And it looks like a prettier working for that rose. Let's pull a bit of that right out there like that. And a bit of that cool right into that as well, pulling out. So it's just right now I'm just going through and it's just, you know, looking at restating some of my shadows. I can use the shadows to assist the rose, but it's giving the rose more roundness and more contrast, which is what I want it to have, just a bit more. I want it to really kind of pop off the surface here. And because it's all going to be about this big rose here. And this Elizabeth rose. We'll push just a bit more of that light right up there. maybe just a touch more. So I'm increasing the lights and darks and looking at it. And that's the thing, you know, you're an acrylic artist, and acrylics dry a little bit darker. So sometimes we got to go back and, you know, and touch through things again. We can use our value scale, which I've covered up now completely here. We can use our value scale to help us with that. And I put that on there for you to help see some of the values that I'm painting with. But they do dry down. Let's just take a bit of that, kind of add a touch of that. So that's kind of a nice, pretty little rose right there. I want to make a softer little, maybe a little greenish, transparent kind of transition over here. I think it would be prettier right in here to have a little bit of that green transition, translucency here, right in there. So I'll drop that in, maybe a bit more of a light edge. Here. There we go. That's kind of pretty. So it gives that little bit of translucency there to that edge. And on the other one that I painted, it had more of a pointed petal sitting out here. And I think I'm going to leave this one a little bit more round. I don't think the customer will mind here. That could be a bit cooler. This a bit rounder of a rose here. Fits the shape of this board better. Here, like that. There we go. Let's put that as kind of a pretty nice little, nice cool color. Let's just drop a bit of that right in there. Right like that. That's kind of pretty. So that makes a nice, pretty little rose, I think. And I can drop in, one of the things I start to look at is if I got a lot of this petal edging right in there, which I do have, see that? I tend to add that, or I used to a lot way back when, but and I do it now. I tend to go make a green, lighter green, yellow green, so some Hansa, some light, and I tend to edge though the petals, the leaves like that as well, in a few areas. And why do I do that? Because it makes the leaf go with the rose better. They don't look, see this soft leaf is okay, but if I have this, it's okay. But if I have a couple of leaves that just have the same kind of edging on the light side of their leaf, as you see in the rose itself, you get a better harmony. They don't look disjointed. They look like they're achieving the, or you're using the same technique. In other words, I always, you know, when I was a young rose painter, and we're going back a long ways, but when I was a young rose painter, I usually painted my leaves with one technique, my roses with another technique, and I'd look at the thing and they just look disjointed. So I try to come back to make sure that you don't want the leaves to have the same power, contrast, as the rose, but you want them to have some of the same looks to the technique so they get a better harmony. And harmony is so important in all your paintings. I paint for harmony. I'm a harmony artist. And, you know, that's very important. Light comes to this side, so let's just put a little bit of an edge there. But it gets that same kind of look, that edging technique that those petals of the rose are catching. And it really does help it quite a bit here. So we'll drop in just a few little, I just like that, little sparks of interest there. Little edges here. Boom, just like that. Maybe just a bit more. And then I like that slight pink going through there. Then I think everything is looking good on this particular painting. And it's, I'll go in and give it a really nice finish. I'm going to do some varnish videos here, how to get really nice varnish finishes and stuff with acrylics. I'm going to do that. That's coming to the channel here in just a day or two. And so I want to show you that. And we have also to tell you about those of you who are watching this on our Jansen Art, the David Jansen channel. We have a second channel that we did start up, and we hadn't used it for a while, and we're going to go back to using it because now that I've got so many requests for landscapes and westerns and seascapes and birds and wolves and all this kind of stuff, and I still want to keep up with going with a lot of the flowers and roses, and I want to go back to some beginning lessons of the roses. We're going to activate back our other channel. It's called Paint It Simply, and it's you just put in Paint It Simply, you'll find it, and you'll see some playlists there that I'm just starting up, so give me a little bit, and they'll have all kinds of roses. I also do rose modeling over there, one of my favorite styles to paint, of the old folk art styles of rose modeling, and so you can see some of that over there. So we're going to have a lot of beginning lessons and some different various techniques and stuff, so we're going to be operating here 2 channels, and we would really appreciate it if you can help our channel out by going over there and subscribing to the Paint It Simply channel. That would help us a lot, okay? So if you enjoy the roses and stuff, you can go over there, and just like this channel, but they'll be featuring slightly different things. Does that make sense? So that so I can expand this channel into doing some more things with some of the other that you're all requesting. And the Paint It Simply, we're going to do that. We're going to paint things more simply, but still have a nice, elegant look to it. So please go over there, Paint It Simply, and our Paint It Simply channel, and subscribe. You would do us a big favor if you enjoyed that, okay? Don't forget to hit like and share and comment. That helps the channel a lot. I've already painted the base coated the back of this, and then I'm going to put a nice Provence and a nice dedication to it, for her. And I'll set it up and I'll look at it, and I'll look at it here in another couple hours, decide if it needs just a little bit more. Sometimes I do, but see, I want that eye to come in here. This is all about the rose for her, and I want your eye to come in right there, and I feel it does a pretty good job on that. Sometimes I would introduce another color or blue and stuff, or put some of a little bit more of the green into the rose, but I think that's enough. It's got a nice, beautiful, warm, cool, and it's got a nice look to it, and I think that's enough for them. Okay, thanks for joining me on this. Don't forget to go over and subscribe to Paint It Simply. Do us a big favor, okay? And I'll see you guys on the next one coming up. And that varnish one, it's going to surprise you. It's going to surprise you. I'll see you guys there. Thanks a lot. I'll see you in the next one.